Aloha everyone, Scott, Sylvan Bell. Thought we'd talk a little bit about persuasive naming today. So an effective thing that you can do to create some persuasive pressure on people or to influence the way that somebody thinks is to rename a product, okay? So, a lot of times in resumes you see this where someone says, I'm not a janitor, I'm an engineer for cleanliness, okay? And that sounds all fine and good. And right now there's a big debate about guns, and I'm not going to lie to you, I really believe in the Second Amendment, and, maybe there's a couple of firearms in my safe. Okay, so when we take a look at things, the way that things are worded can create some tension and create some issues. So let's just take the word assault weapon. We take a look at whatever the implication is. Now, some people call guns firearms, guns themselves. Some people call them weapons. But when you add the word assault to it, it implies something. So, the question for you, for what you're watching right now, is what's the implication? What's the implication of an assault weapon? Okay? And then, is that really meant to strike fear in your heart? Or is that meant to describe something? Now, for me, I take offense to this name, assault weapon. Okay? So, I'm going to pick something up right here. This is commonly known as an AR-15. I'm keeping it this direction so you don't get to see all the nameplates and all the cool gadgets that go along with it. And, some people will say, well, that's an assault weapon. Well, is it? I mean, do I have an intention to assault somebody? Do I have an intention to use it as a weapon? Or is it a firearm? Okay? So understand that there's some things that come from the names that when somebody's talking to you, and it could just be about sales, it could be about influence, it could be a lot of things that are being done. By the way, if you notice, I didn't put my finger around the trigger. That's a good way to have safety, okay? And, you got to think about it. What's the implication of the name? Is it meant to scare you? Is it meant to make you happy? Another implication would be greenhouse gases. Greenhouse gases. What does that imply? I mean, CO2, greenhouse gases. CO2, greenhouse gases. I mean, which one sounds worse? Oh my goodness, what's a greenhouse gas? You're killing things. Greenhouse gas? I mean, gas inside the greenhouse? Oh my goodness, that's not good for plants. Okay? So you got to understand that there's going to be an implication to the way that everything gets named. And it could either be used for good or for bad. Now, in my belief, in my instance, I think the term assault weapon's a bunch of junk because, as I shared with you, I'm not planning on assaulting anybody. And I don't ever plan on my firearm to be a weapon. Hopefully it never ever comes to that. Okay? And if it was, I wouldn't planning on assaulting somebody. So just a few things to think about. Now, if you'd like, you can stop here because we're going to flip over and we're going to talk about the common types of arguments. And it will have just a little bit of political information. And, you'll be able to tell which direction that I lean. I mean, I'm not going to hide it and try to say something that I'm not. So hold on a second. We're going to come back right back and we're going to go over. Okay, so when you take a look at the persuasive naming of something, it can have a lot of implications for good or for bad. And we use the example of assault weapon. In my belief, a gun is a firearm, and it's not a weapon until it's used to hurt somebody or protect, okay? Now, everybody has different definitions, and you can agree with me or disagree with me. Now, that is a persuasive argument technique. I can say you can agree with me, you can disagree with me, okay? And that sounds reasonable. So let's talk about the common man situation. And our current president, President Obama, likes to use an example like this. And I'm going to stick with the gun issue. Now, I'm certain that most responsible gun owners would agree that a 30-round magazine isn't needed for sporting use. Okay? So there's a hole in there, and let's talk about it. And whether you agree or disagree with me, it's still a good explanation here. And when he says that most people who are responsible gun owners would agree, then that would mean that if you disagree, you're not a responsible gun owner. Okay? You see where that logic comes in? And you could use that for any situation that you want. You could say, most people who don't believe in global warming would agree that having, dirt destroyed by waste isn't a good thing. In any situation that you want. Okay? And then I could counter and I could say something along the lines of be like, you know what, Mr. President, the reality of the situation is when you take a look at what's going on, you can't buy 30-round magazines. They're all sold out. Okay? So it sounds like it's a really common argument. And both these common man situations and the reality of the situation arguments are used quite frequently by the media, by both sides, so it's important for you to see this, okay? So the next one would be, he could say to me, he would say the common man argument would go something like this. Most responsible gun owners would agree that you don't need a 30-round magazine. You could get away with a 10-round magazine for sporting purposes. And then I would counter and go, hey, the reality of the situation is if you went to the gun store right now and tried to purchase a 30-round magazine for your firearm, you couldn't do it. And then he'd go, well, the fact of the matter is, and then it's like, whoa, wait a minute. Anytime that somebody says the fact of the matter, you should really question that. You should go, is that a fact? Or is that like a semi-fact? Or is that not a fact at all? Okay? So he could say, the fact of the matter is that X, Y, and Z people agree that you don't need a 30-round magazine. Okay? So he's doing two things. He's stealing the argument, and it's a fact of the matter is. And then I could go back and go, well, the bottom line is I think that you're wrong. We have this cool thing called the Second Amendment. And we get to pretty much have firearms until Congress says otherwise. It's not cool to go through executive orders and, circumvent the way that the Constitution was written just because it's not convenient, okay? And then, the whole foot in the door thing. So you've gone through the whole common man, reality of the situation, the fact of the matter, the stealing the argument, the bottom line. The next thing is the foot in the door. So I teach sales, persuasion, negotiation, and one of the things that happens is, you always ask for more than what you want. So if we're going to seize upon the opportunity and go after firearms, or some people call them assault weapons, which I totally disagree with, by the way. I don't make any qualms about that. The thing is, you always want to go for more than what you want. So that when the person goes, that's ridiculous. You know what? I'm more than willing to settle for X and Y, but not Z. Well, maybe the person really didn't care if they got Y and Z, and all they wanted was X. Okay? So just know that no matter what you do and what persuasive situation you're in, whether you're watching politics or whether you are a salesperson, an influencer, a persuader, all these things can help you, okay? But just be careful when you hear an argument where they say, most people, the fact of the matter is, the bottom line, whatever else is on here, are stealing the argument. That's, for your mind to go, time out. We need to slow things down. Because if you don't start disagreeing at that point, your mind starts going, oh, maybe that kind of sounds true. Maybe that, that's really not so bad. I could kind of agree with that. And that's the way that you change minds, okay? So whether you disagree for firearms or agree, take this example for what it is. Because the fact of the matter is, I love the Constitution. And if the First Amendment were treated like the Second Amendment, questions would be illegal. And presuppositions would require a permit, okay? So, that's my belief. See, I said the fact of the matter is, and so that can make you go, well, is that really a fact? Huh, sounds pretty cool. All right? Understand that I'm just being really calm about this, and I'm not creating tension, and that's an important part. And, if you were to take a look at the way that the situation is and the way that guns have been renamed, just something to think about. If it were a person or a group of people, the way that this has been treated, it might be considered a hate crime. Cool? Now, I'm going to ask something of you. If you are watching this on my YouTube channel, I was very diplomatic in this, and so I'm going to ask that, if you agree or disagree with me, name calling isn't cool, and here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to steal the argument. I can't spell. I don't know how to punctuate. I am overweight. Okay? So, if you put that on there, that's not cool. If you start calling people names, that's not cool. Alright? So do me a favor. If you got a question, comment that's legitimate and not arguing back and forth and calling somebody names, I'd appreciate it. Scott Sylvan Bell. Only Scott Bell with the Sylvan in the middle. We'll see you soon. Thanks for watching.